how colors work and those relationships of color. Hello and welcome. I'm Akram and you're watching Akram's Ideas, bringing creative and crazy ideas to life. In this episode, I wanted to share with you my sewing resolutions, plans, ideas, thoughts for 2022, starting with one overarching concept for the year. And I thought the best setting for sharing my sewing plans would be in my lovely sewing room here. Now, for those of you who have been following Akram's Ideas for a while, you may have noticed that in 2021 I didn't produce a whole lot of videos, and I would almost say that while I did do some sewing, I probably sewed less than I have sewn in the past 10 years. There are many reasons for that. Obviously, the global pandemic had a lot to do with it, new work responsibilities, and a little bit of my whole sewing mojo. Back in 2020, I think it was, I had a little bit of a flood inside the sewing room and had to move things, and I had never really got around to reorganizing the sewing room fully. And in 2021, last year, I spent a lot of my time just cleaning and reorganizing my sewing room so that I get more use out of it. One thing that I did sort of dedicatedly is to sort all my woven fabrics. And then you can see a little bit of it here. Some of the chiffons and things like that are on bolts, but I went ahead and I folded and ironed and sorted all of my cotton, because I started to learn to sew on cotton, and I have quite a lot of cotton in my stash. So I've actually got the room around here sorted by length, and each length is in a color variation. So I've got 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, and then anything above 6 yards is in the closet. And I do hope to share with you a sewing room tour in the future. It still needs a little bit of work, but I hope to share that with you. But that's one of the things that I did in 2021. Another element that was going on as far as sewing is that I kept thinking to myself, what is it that I want to sew? Why is it that I have items in my closet that I've sewn and I've never worn, or I don't like wearing? And if many of you are familiar with some of the other sewing vloggers out there, and I believe it was Whitney from Tomcat Stitchery, who has been kind of on this mantra for a while now about her colors, about her seasonal colors and what colors look best on her. And she's done some color analysis for her and her daughter, where they are given a card that says, what are your best colors? And a couple of other people have joined up on this bandwagon. And I've heard about this. I mean, growing up as a kid, you know, in the 80s, I think it was really popular to get your color season chosen or set for you. So I'd heard about it for a long time, but I hadn't really put it into motion in my own wardrobe. I didn't really think about it. I love color. I love all sorts of colors. So it was really hard for me to say, no, I'm just going to stick with these colors. So I started looking into it. And the first thing I realized is that color analysis, and granted, these people are professionals. They get trained into giving you your color analysis, but I could not see myself paying upwards of $200 or more to have somebody tell me what colors I look good in. After all, if you are familiar with me and my channel, I teach color theory, you know, in a lot of my courses. I've taught color theory and how colors and the relationship of colors and how colors work together. So I understand how colors work and those relationships of color. So I figured I could probably figure out this concept for myself. And I started looking into it. I read a bunch of blogs on the whole idea. And really what it is it kind of took back my concept of you can't wear certain colors. You can wear any color. It is the value, contrast, and saturation of those colors that you should be wearing. And what that really means is how bright the color is, you know, how much black versus white is in the actual hue, which is the actual color itself, and how saturated it is. You know, is it a very bold color? Is it a very muted color? And it really all is based upon your skin undertone color and the contrast you have between yourself and your hair. There are some online and phone apps that you can upload your photo, or you can take a quiz and it can determine your colors for you. And with that said, I did a couple of those and I was getting between 2 color seasons every time. And I did a little bit more thinking, and I think I have really settled on what I think my color season is. Now, one of the things I also tested, because again, I teach color theory and I thought that I should be able to determine this. One of the things that I did is I searched color analysis videos online, and I watched a lot of videos where people were going to announce what their color analysis was. So I watched those videos and determined whether or not I could pinpoint their color before they announced it in the video. And I was pretty accurate. About 90% of the time I was able to say, yes, this is their color before they said it in the video. So I'm pretty confident that I'm pretty close. So with that said, according to the apps and everything that I went through, they kind of pigeoned me between a spring and a summer. And I have determined that I'm pretty much a light spring. And I say that because I have a warm undertone. I have a very warm undertone. My hair is fairly light. It's gotten darker as I gotten older. But when I was very young, I had probably the lightest hair in my family. And again, I have a soft contrast between the hair and my complexion. And as it turns out as well, I love the colors in the light spring palette. And ironically, this is another thing that I found to be very interesting and poignant, is that I believe that we all have a natural bias to the colors that we look good in, meaning that we like those colors even if we don't wear those colors. So some of the ironies in this, for example, obviously Whitney from Tomcat Stitchery, she became a soft autumn, I believe, is what she fell into, and she has a chair that she had forever in her videos, which are those same colors. And it wasn't colors that she normally wear because of her light hair and everything. She was assuming that she was a spring, and so she was wearing more paler colors or brighter colors than those more autumn muted tones. But, you know, obviously she liked those colors. She had that chair. Natita from Sewing Natural Dane, she also had her colors done. She's a soft summer, and soft summers have a lot of purple in their color palette, and we all know that she loves purple, and she looks fantastic in purple. So those are just some examples of individuals who may or may not have worn their favorite colors, but had a natural bias towards those colors. And so I think that may be the case here. And so for me, I've always been a natural bias to bright spring colors, especially the apple green color. Green is my favorite color, and I have a lot of shades of green, but if you ask me, my favorite shade of green is apple green, and that is a lighter shade of green than in comparison to, say, emerald green, which I do like, but I like the apple green, or happy apple green, as I always would call it, and that is the green in my color palette. Now, as a teenager, I kind of chose not to wear pink. You know, it was the whole 90s girl power thing. You know, you don't want to wear pink. You don't want to be a Barbie. But as I got older, and I started wearing pink, I was getting more compliments in pink. In fact, this is a ready-to-wear sweater that my husband bought me for Christmas, and this is actually one of my best colors, is a coral. And I thought this was kind of funny because when I noticed that coral was one of my best colors, I was like, but I don't own anything that's coral. And I started looking in my closet, and that was completely false. I had a blazer that I had in coral. I had a really nice dress suit that was in coral. I had a couple of tank tops that were in coral. I just wasn't wearing them. I bought them because I liked them, and I like the look of them, but I wasn't wearing them because I felt like, oh no, coral's a little too out there, it's a little too orangey. But then, I started thinking, no, I need to be wearing these colors. These are my colors. And going back to the idea of color, it's not the color, it's the shade of color. So, for example, our school, the university I work for, our colors are blue and gold. And there are variations of blue that people wear. A lot of people choose to wear navy because, navy is kind of a neutral. But I have a very lovely sort of royally blue, what everybody calls the Agent Carter suit, because it's the exact same color that Agent Carter wears from the Agent Carter series. And every single time that I wear that to the university, everybody is like, that looks fantastic on you, you're in the right school colors and everything. And it's not necessarily the exact right school colors, I think they're actually darker, but I think it's because that shade of blue is the exact right blue for me. If I wear a darker navy, it doesn't stand out. And again, it's all about making your skin pop, making your eyes pop, and everything. So you can wear whatever color, you just need to be wearing the right color for you. And so with this mentality, I started going through my closet and noticing that a lot of the things that I just didn't wear were colors. Not that I didn't like the colors, but they weren't colors in my color palette. A lot of them were browns, mustards, dark, sort of muted olive greens. And one of the reasons for this, and again, like I said, I'm familiar with color theory. So one of the things that I always used to do in my wardrobe is I would dress for the season, meaning that if it was autumn, I would wear only autumn colors. So I would wear the browns and the muted colors, and the dark colors. If it was spring, I would wear very, very pale, very muted colors, summer, more bold colors. And I noticed that while I was wearing for the season, I wasn't wearing for my season. But then I started thinking, well, how do you do that? How do you wear clothes for that season when there is a misconception that, like winter is, Christmas colors, your dark ruby red and your dark green, and, in summer you got to be wearing, the brightest of bright neon pinks and things like that. How does that work? And I started looking at fabrics and stuff like that, and really it's not that hard. One of the things that I actually purchased not long ago, well, the flannel was on sale at Joann's, was this absolutely beautiful pumpkin fabric. And like I said, autumn is actually one of my favorite seasons. I was born in October, so I absolutely adore autumn. And I love autumn colors, but again, my palette is more of this light spring, and this is a perfect example. It's got the corals in there and it's pumpkins, but it's my colors and it still has that autumn feel. So I think what I need to do is really take away from the concept of these are the colors that you need to be wearing in this season, and thinking about how I can address my colors in that season. And so that is what I'm thinking about. So how does this all apply to my sewing resolutions and what I'm going to be sewing moving forward? Well, as you can see here, I have a lot of fabric. A lot of fabric that is in my stash, and I'm not just going to get rid of all the fabric that doesn't mesh with me. I love color, and I plan to still wear almost any color, but I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate of it. And also, one of the key things is that you want to have your best colors up against your face. So a lot of these things, like these dark navies and things like that, could be worn as a skirt or pant or something like that. Also, I have a lot of sisters, and they are not the same color palette as me, so I kind of diagnosed them, and one in particular is a soft summer. And I diagnosed her right away, and I told her to start wearing a different color foundation because she always looked a little yellow, and because she has a cool undertone because she's a soft summer, and it made like night and day changes on her. Like, it looks so much better. Her face looks so much brighter. And again, she's a soft summer, and her favorite color is purple. And soft summer is purple is like one of their big colors. Same thing with something like this kimono jacket that I have here. This particular jacket is more of a soft summer color. It will work for me because it has all those pink tones, but it's a little bit more muted than a light spring. So this would be something better for her. So I have colors that I could use to make other people's stuff as well. However, light spring kind of runs a little bit more in the family. My niece, I determined, is also a very much light spring. My nephew, on the other hand, is an autumn. And I totally believe that his favorite color is red. He's very into the muted colors. He looks great in them, and so I can use some of my autumn colors for him. My husband is a true summer. That's a little bit more of the blues and grays in summer. He's got a very cool undertone. So again, a lot of those colors of fabric, I can make stuff for him in those colors. But like I said, I'm not going to be so define I'm only going to wear these colors. I'm going to wear whatever. Obviously, you want to wear whatever makes you happy, but you also want to wear what is most flattering. So I'm going to try to attempt to be more deliberate with that. And as it so happens, Haley from Haley Moore Sews has actually also been going on a color journey and recently announced the year-long challenge of Sew Your Colors, which is basically the same process of sewing the colors that are best for you, sewing your color palette. And that is my goal this year with my sewing plans, is to really focus in on the colors that I enjoy wearing, the colors that look best with me. And with that said, a lot of these colors complement each other and can be worn together, so you can get more mix and match that way as well, because they're all kind of complementary colors to that palette. So while I plan to sew a lot of different things, probably with a lot of different fabric, I still aim to sew my colors and sew using that light spring color palette. I would love to know in the comments below if you've had your colors analysis done, or self-done, or had them professionally done, and what you thought about the process, and whether or not you think that I am correct in thinking that I am, in fact, a light spring. I'd love to hear your opinions on that as well. So that is the first of my sewing resolutions. I'll be sharing my Make 9 plans in an upcoming video, so please stay tuned for that. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Akram's Ideas, and thanks for watching.